Well, it's finally happened. The first season of Velma has drawn to a close, and it's looking as though a season 2 has been set up. Yep, that post-credit scene said it all. But before we get onto that, we've got episode 9 and 10 to discuss. With Velma being reunited with her mother at the end of episode 8 and getting amnesia, we saw that these two episodes were going to be focused on trying to make her mother remember what happened on the night that she went missing, in order to identify who the serial killer was. And it's safe to say that it felt like a rushed, chaotic final hour. So let's get into why the season finale of this show was awful. I know many of you don't care about spoilers for the show, but hey, one last time. This video will contain spoilers. So everything that we found wrong throughout this show was brought to the forefront of these final 2 episodes. However, one thing that really stood out to me in these final 2 was the selfish nature of the character Velma. And I firmly believe that's one of the main reasons as to why this show has been a failure. With Velma's mother in need of being kept happy in order for her memories to come back, we saw Velma frantically panicking around the town, the school, and around the other characters doing as she pleased in order to keep her mother happy. It was an episode that was spent really highlighting the fact that Velma is a selfish narcissist that cares for nobody but herself and will disregard everybody's feelings, actions, and emotions as long as she gets what she wants. We saw this with Daphne when Daphne told her that she wanted to be with her, but she was pushing her to the side. And we also saw it with Norville when she quite literally tore his house apart and also disregarded him as a human being that has shown care and compassion for her over the past 2 years, accusing his father of being the killer. This was genuinely one of the main reasons as to why this show just hasn't worked. It's because Velma is one of the most unlikable characters that we've seen on TV for a long time, and she's the main character. You'd think that Mindy would have realized this as well when they changed the characteristics of Michael Scott from the first season of The Office to the future seasons, because people didn't resonate or root for somebody that was unlikable. However, many years later, we're now seeing a character that is extremely unlikable, leading a case that only benefits her. As the episode went on, we saw Velma's mother having flashbacks to when she was inside of the cave. And at the end of the episode, where she saw that the world that she'd come back to was one big lie that was orchestrated by Velma, she then remembered who the killer was, and they didn't even reveal it in the episode. They revealed it in the mid-credits scene, which I thought was an odd place to have potentially the biggest moments of the entirety of the season. She stated that the killer was her, and then it drew to a close. However, with there being an entire episode to go, it was safe to assume that Velma's mother wasn't going to actually be the killer. So it didn't feel like it had much importance to it. So, episode 10, the season finale. This was the episode that the entirety of the show was building towards, and it was centered around Velma trying to prove her mother's innocence. To me, this showed exactly what Velma was like and had been like throughout. Her mother was literally confessing to the murders, but she still wasn't buying it and wanted to pin it on somebody else. Obviously, in the grand scheme of things, it's good that she did, but it just showed the type of person that she was. We saw that there was a revelation that was made when Velma's mother was always answering in the same fashion and was always repeating the exact same confession, which then showed us that she was hypnotized into saying it. This was where it all started getting a bit messy. So, when Daphne visited Velma, we saw that she had the pocket watch that her mother had planted in her locker that she got from the killer when they tried to attack them in the post-credit scene a couple of episodes ago. This was the pocket watch that was used by the killer, and it once belonged to Harry Meeting, who was the general who was working on the Scooby project alongside Edna Purdue all of those years ago. However, he was now dead, so it meant that it had to now belong to somebody else. With the manufacturer of the watch being Jones Gentleman's Accessories, this then meant that it had to be one person, and this was Fred's mother and Harry's daughter, Victoria. As we saw throughout the entirety of the show, she was worried about handing over a company that she headed up, the family business, over to Fred one day. So what she wanted to do was transfer the brain of a popular girl over into his body, as she thought that they would be more capable than what he was. She also thought that a young girl that was similar to her would be able to benefit from what it was like to taste success as a male president of a company. It turned out that all of those years ago, the Scooby project was actually successful in the transferring of the brains, but Edna Purdue didn't get any of the credit for the work that she did, and General Harry Meeting took all of the credit. In a rage, Edna swapped the brains back, destroyed her lab, and hid her journals so none of her work could ever be created again. With Edna not sharing any of the information on the projects, this then meant that his family, along with the young Victoria, lost everything. And with the threat of losing the business all over again now as a more mature woman if she handed it over to Fred, when Velma's mother arrived at the mansion 2 years ago, she hypnotized her into rebuilding the lab and carrying out the project again. However, upon Velma solving the case, she then wanted Velma's brain inside of Fred's. Ultimately, we saw the group escape and Norville basically come and save the day by accidentally killing Fred's mother in a brutal fashion. In this moment as well, we also saw Velma going to kiss Daphne and tell her that she loved her, but she instead said the name Norville. This was one of the most pointless things to be added in the moment. Velma and Daphne had a genuine love interest relationship throughout the whole season, so I found it a bit baffling that in the moment where she should have had a somewhat happy ending and got to be with the person that she always wanted to be with, she said Norville. Somebody who she'd never loved romantically, wanted to be with, and found annoying at times. It was a bit strange and very unnecessary. Velma was rewarded by the town for solving the mystery, and it looked as though the Mystery Inc. was somewhat established with some kind of mystery machine being built as well. With the final moments of the episode being a mid-credit scene where the sheriff was putting the case files into the solved cabinet, it looked as though he was killed, so it could well be pointing to a season 2 being on the cards and another mystery for Velma to solve. I don't think anybody has asked for it, and the ratings would otherwise suggest that it wouldn't be received well in doing one. But with the conversation that the season has sparked, I imagine they want to spark more. The season finale was extremely underwhelming, and as I mentioned earlier, it just shone a light on the character that many of us have come to dislike over the course of the 10 episodes. This show didn't need to be 5 hours long. It could have been significantly shorter than that. It didn't resemble the classic Scooby-Doo shows in any way whatsoever. It just took beloved characters and altered them drastically and got away with using the names and the outfits. This show is a prime example of how just taking some of the IP of a show and not even the main parts such as Scooby-Doo or the Mystery Machine, and then trying to make a spin-off that's in a completely different genre to a completely different target audience just doesn't quite work. You need all of it, or at least a good story at its core to be able to give it legs to get it off the ground. This lacked any real identity from start to finish. It didn't have any characters that we could really get behind and root for, and it lost the interesting style of animation that it had at the start during the hallucinations. So it's a shame. If the show does come back for a second season, I wouldn't be surprised, but I think it will be for all of the wrong reasons. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So, there you have it. Why Velma episode 9 and 10 has the worst season finale in history. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of the season finale? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.